What is up, everyone? We're back. Another stream. How's everyone doing? Just a nice little draft discussion. People ask questions. I'll answer some stuff. We'll go over uh, different things, some small little topics, but nothing too crazy planned out here. But what's up? What's up? Trade Tyreek Hill now while we can. I mean, I'm not against it. I hope the potential trade rumors, if it was about someone, it was Tyreek. What's up, The Day? What's up, Dylan? What's up, Troll? Yeah. Yeah, yesterday we talked about receivers. If you guys didn't watch that stream, I got like deep into the receiver class because I didn't spend too much time on the receivers. Just because I don't think it's the biggest position of need, but with how the Dolphins have kind of treated this offseason, I feel like they're in a position where they might just be thinking best player available instead of focusing so heavily on need. Because I think they could be potentially think a little more long term. At least from their actions, it feels that way. Even though, like going into the offseason, I thought they would be thinking more short term. It is a little weird. But got some random stuff pulled up. Random, like, probably show some clips that I just have like here. Like, I'm just pulling some clips that are off Twitter just to showcase players. Like, here's Jonas Savaiinaea at right tackle. I feel like seeing some clips like this help me see why he can translate to the Dolphins. Like, these are some good movement skills out in space. You didn't get to always see this with him at Arizona with just how they used him. And he'll be a guard at the next level. But seeing that kind of movement, that kind of makes me feel like if they do go guard at 48, which we still don't know. I still don't know exactly what's going to happen. He would be someone I like. I've seen a lot of people mentioning trade down. I really feel like that's unlikely. And if they do trade down, I don't think the trade down value is very good this year. You guys, I don't know, like my first draft ever, like when I started really getting into the draft was 2013. And the trade in that was when the Dolphins traded up for Deion Jordan, which obviously in hindsight was not a good move. They should have taken Lane Johnson. But the trade itself was a steal. They went from 12 to 3 and only gave up a second, which in a lot of scenarios, like we saw the Dolphins, they went back from 3 to 12, only a few years ago, and they picked up multiple first round picks by doing that. So this year feels more like one of those things where if you do trade back, you're not going to get the greatest compensation. So if they do trade back, which I think is unlikely, don't expect to get much in return. Norman Lott at 48. I think that wouldn't be bad. I don't think that would be my favorite pick at 48, but because I think he's more of I have him as an early third rounder, so 48's a little rich for me. And I do think that area of the draft, the pick 48 is probably the best pick Miami has in terms of value in the class. You want as many picks in between. We've talked about it in between 20 and 80 in this class. And 48, you're going to get a player who's just as good as someone who was taken at 25. So I'm really trying to get a stud there at 48, definitely some starters. This class, I think, has a lot of solid to guys who can be strong rotational players. A lot of solid starters, strong rotational players in this class. That's how bad 2013 was. Yeah, 2013 was really bad. 13 was just really bad in general. This class is more, it's going to be like that because it's not as top heavy. So why would a team trade up, to 15 when they think they're going to get someone who's just as good as a player, at 25 or something like that? That's kind of the reasoning behind why I think the value won't be there in this class. And it's just what I've seen from people talking about it who have sources. But yeah, man, 13 was so bad. Go back and look at 2013. 2013, at the top of that class, and just in general, was just a really bad one. Yeah, let's also saw watch some new players. I made a film breakdown on Jalen Smith, USC. Really big fan of his game. I think he I usually don't. Sometimes it's hard to find players later in the process that are really flying under the radar. He is for sure flying under the radar. Jalen Smith, one of the better press man corners, instinctive in zone. Maybe a little undersized, but not crazy undersized. Very strong tackler, technical. Don't really see too many weaknesses to his game. He tested well. Just saw some of JJ Roberts, the Marshall safety. I don't know if people have heard of him, but he's very interesting because he definitely makes some big plays on the back end at safety, gets him to the right position. If he can work on finishing with some interceptions, this guy's got some good instincts and is very close to making a lot of big plays. think I'd prefer run stopping D line like Alfred Collins at 48. Yeah, I like Collins. I'm a big fan of him as a player. I would definitely not be mad with that at 48. Uh, I still think Kenneth Grant is a very likely pick at 13. Like, I still think that is a decent chance of happening. But honestly, I wouldn't be like, I've talked about 13 so much, like who it could be. Mentioned so many players. And it still wouldn't surprise me if they went with someone who we just haven't talked about at 13. Like, what if they went out like who's someone random they could take that we just never talked about at 13? That like Gray Zabel. Like, what if they end up going? I mean, I don't think they're gonna take O-line, but like that would be a type of pick that could get made earlier than I think people expected. It just seems like this is the draft where picks are gonna be surprising. But who knows how it's gonna end up kind of playing out. I was thinking, you guys can ask me some either ors, give me like two players at a certain spot in the draft, and ask me like who I would take. We can, it kind of helps you like create like a situation. Like if you were in the draft room, like how your rankings would be, how your draft stack would be. Because I'm gonna I do have a board and rankings like ranked out here, but it's not completed. But by the draft, I'm gonna have at least a big board for like certain spots in the class, like for round one, and then day two. So we'll have like 3 separate ones that we'll look at when that time rolls around. But definitely some fun stuff there. Also, like, let me pull this up actually. Nope, not that. Like, I feel like, so these are some like interesting stuff that I found. Here's a Google Doc. I have a lot of Google Drives from like people over the years, like learning scouting and stuff like that. This is from I actually believe like a scout school, I think done by either the Jets or the Eagles. And this is sort of like their grading chart and how they grade, by rounds versus projections. Up here you can see. But they have like a day one starter. So like this right here, like is their round one guys, and they have their grades. 8.0 obviously is a top pick / franchise player. You rarely give out an 8.0 grade. 7.0, they have like top 10 picks / best player position. There's usually a couple 7.0s in a draft, but not many. Then 6.9 and 6.8 is usually like majority of the first round players that, are like great guys you have graded in the first round. And that's usually like your actual first round grades. These guys will be eventual starters, guys who will probably go first round, top 25, top 32, but might not end up, being guys you technically have as first round graded. And they got all these different grading systems here, potential starter, backup. And there's so many different ones. I've talked about, I worked for SIS. I've done stuff for them. Their grading system is slightly different than that, but it does kind of actually go on the same scale. But let me go here. I do like seeing, like, it's always interesting to see all the different types of system. Let me go Google, pull this up. Let me see. What are you guys asking? Oh, have you watched the Joshua? I have watched some Joshua Foreman. I do think he has like pretty high upside if you watch him from Florida State. Like he's got definitely like a really nice like physical profile. Like I think what is his arm length? Let me try to find it. Yeah, he's got like 35 inch arms, which is crazy. And like he's pretty raw at times, but the power, the quickness that he can possess, like he's got good hands, I think. And can just like take over some gaps. I just think there's some consistency issues. Like he doesn't always have the best first step, inconsistent pad level, that type of thing. And I would like, I don't know, like feel like, sometimes he could get tired out as like games go on, but he is someone that I do think is probably pretty high. I actually think the Dolphins really like, out of like the sort of raw defensive tackles, they're visiting with Shamar Turner. I feel like they probably like Shamar Turner a lot, and he does seem like a very good scheme fit for what Weaver wants to do. Have you watched Johnson or Barron at 13? Johnson, but I love Barron. It's very close. Like I wouldn't be mad if they went Barron like over Johnson even, because there are some things of Barron's game that I do like more. Like I think Barron is much more willing to be involved as a tackler. I think Will Johnson is not the best tackler. Uh, Barron also can play nickel if you wanted, and is probably like even a little more disciplined at times versus double moves. But Johnson, at his size, fluidity, he can potentially be special. I'd be happy with Zabel just because moving down doesn't seem likely. Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't love that. Like, I like Zabel and Jackson as players, but I wouldn't like them at 13. And I just don't think trading down is very likely to happen. I think Alfred Collins' run game not his strength. I think Alfred Collins might be one of the best run defenders in the class. I don't think he's a great pass rusher. Zabel at 13, no thanks. Ryder keeps bending the Dolphins' will to what he wants them to do. The Dolphins will go BPA positions of need. I mean, definitely a chance of that, but I think they could still go at BPA at positions that are not as big of a need. They've done it before. They did it last season. Literally, their picks last season were not the biggest positions of need in people's mind, and they literally did it last year with their early picks. I think they're very willing to take just like premium positions early, even if they're not the biggest positions of need for the team. And the Dolphins have so many positions of need that, I mean, you can just argue it's BPA in general anyways, other than like, you know, them taking running back or quarterback early, or, you know, not center, but those positions don't, you know, I mean, center and running back typically don't go that early anyways. And this is a horrible QB class. So going BPA position of need, I don't even see that big of a difference between it, other than like some minor differences. And I think in this class, depending on where you end up picking and how the board falls, it can be a little tricky. It might just be like a lot of players closely ranked, so then they might go towards positions of need because you're gonna have a lot of people probably ranked closely in that, you know, area. What other positions of need do you write? The biggest ones, I mean, there's a lot, but the biggest ones are D tackle, corner, and guard. I would say are the top three. But then after that, like, I still think then safety is probably 4. I still think like you could upgrade at Y tight end, like for sure at Y tight end. Like I think Y tight end is a bigger need than people think. Off ball linebacker, they added a lot of bodies to that room, but you don't really have a certified starter next to Jordan Brooks. You have a lot of guys that I think could be linebacker 3s. Then I think like I don't think tackle is a huge position of need in terms of starter, but I still think they might want to add tackle relatively early. They did it last year when tackle wasn't a need. And they had more tackles last year. They were just, you know, kind of preparing for Armstead, but they also had Kendall Lamb last year, and they went into the draft thinking Keon Smith was going to be healthy. So like, and they still took Patrick Paul in the second round. Plenty of examples of that. And then probably some other, like, I don't think edge is a huge position of need, but I wouldn't be surprised if they took an edge at some point early on, just because edge is a premium position and they've shown a willingness to still take edges. Have you watched film on Javari Ritzy? When I haven't heard of the name, sometimes I just think you guys are just making stuff up, because I have had people just make stuff up in the chat. But no, I haven't watched him. But man, I don't know. There's a lot of players I like. Lots of directions they can go, and I've seen them do things. I mean, I've definitely predicted things correctly that they're going to do, but I've seen them go in completely opposite directions at certain points in the draft every year as well. I just made a video on there's some guards out there, like some later round O linemen that I like. Bryce Cabledew, Kansas. Just made a video on him. It's members only right now. But damn, this guy is a perfect scheme fit. Late round guard. Like he played tackle at Kansas, but late round guard. Like this guy has the movement skills and is a very good run blocker. One of the better run blockers I've seen in the class. And he has the movement skills to fit the Dolphins scheme. I feel like they'll really like him. So keep an eye out for that name. Another one who also played tackle that I think could play guard in the Dolphin system that is a good mover. Has that sort of built and like movement skills and sort of mentality I think the Dolphins look for in run blockers at the guard position. Caleb Rogers from Texas Tech. He's another name to know. So I like those guys, Kildu and Caleb Rogers. Definitely some later round prospects. And then also Marcus Ware. Kind of blanking on what school he played at because it's one of the. I always forget these smaller school guys what school it was. Montana State. That's what it is. Okay. He's another one that I plan to make a video on. I've heard that Sanders is likely to fall. I hope Sanders goes 9 to the Saints because I would like for that to happen so we have extra potential options on the board. And I guess that would be a potential trade up situation, but who knows if teams even want to trade it for it. Maybe it falls that far. You like tight end Fannin Jr.? I think I think early on in the process he was getting overhyped, and then now maybe he's gotten a little too little appreciation. I think he's fine. I have him graded as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's like tied for my 6th tight end. So I think he would, and he's not someone I'm necessarily looking for Miami because he'd be more of in that Jonnu Smith type role, and I think the Dolphins need a true wide tight end. I think he'll find some production, but I see him as like an F move tight end fullback type. Yeah, Slater as well. I didn't mention Slater because I've talked about Slater before, and I think Slater's like a tier above the guys I just mentioned. Simon Clance. Yeah, I think Simon's tweet was the one I saw initially about Cable Dude that made me just want to go watch him, and I was like, oh yeah. You watch him right away, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the type of lineman the Dolphins should be looking for. Guys that are, good value because, they might fall in the draft a little bit because they weren't, perfect pass protectors or anything. But the Dolphins get really good, they have a really good job of mitigating those weaknesses like they did with Brewer at center. They can do that at guard for these guys, and his run blocking is exactly what you want for the system. Ryder, do you feel you favor any conference over another? I love how many big. I think I used to, but like the conferences, teams have changed so much recently. I don't even know. I'll be honest, like I feel like I don't even know which teams are in conferences anymore because over the past couple of years, conferences have changed. Also, to be fair, I did realize because about 2 years ago, I got like I've gotten claimed on video. I've got copyright claimed on videos, but I've never gotten striked. And if you get 3 strikes, it deletes your channel. 2 years ago, I got 2 strikes because like they hit everybody making like all 22 film breakdowns with college stuff. And they were hitting everyone. So like I almost stopped making college film breakdowns because of that. And I realized if you look at it, like if you show like the wide angle view, not the back view, and SEC games, those were the ones that majorly got striked. So I just stopped like making too many SEC ones. And if I did make an SEC video, I only really showed the end zone angle because whenever I did the opposite, they would always get copyright claimed. And like at one point, I almost got my channel taken down for that. So that's why I kind of avoid SEC and do the other conferences because I don't want to get my channel taken away. But if the Dolphins draft people, hopefully I can figure out a way to get around it and not get it copyrighted. I'll figure out a way in the editing. Sometimes I have to edit those film breakdowns like multiple times and like take out certain clips and like put clips over the other ones because for some reason some clips are allowed and some aren't. I don't know. I think the Dolphins will value Will Johnson a lot if he's there. I would bet he's the pick. I think he would have a high chance of being the pick if he was there. I think it depends on. I think how he tests is important because I think corner is a position that testing matters a lot in the minds of like front offices. And I believe he's testing soon on a pro day. He hasn't done any testing this offseason, so that will be big for Johnson's stock, I believe. Because he has had injury stuff as well. Great draft for tight end and D tackle. Yes. To me, you got to come away with multiple D linemen and at least one tight end in this class. It doesn't necessarily need to be early for the tight end, but the class is too stacked. I keep finding people too like that are like, oh, that's an interesting late round option. That's not too bad. That is pretty intriguing. Yeah. I need to do some stuff for UT. How does Samson? They're different players. I like Samson if Samson has a fumbling issue, that's Samson's biggest problem. If he didn't have a fumbling issue, I actually would really like Samson in this class. I think he's still in that like round 3, early, round 4 kind of scenario. Because I really like his I think like his burst and contact balance, which are 2 traits that translate really well for running backs, is really good. And he breaks a lot of tackles, and he's smooth. I think he plays with good vision and patience. But he just had a lot of fumbling issues last year, which is always something that I don't really like. Would you appreciate James Pierce at 13? Personally, I don't think it's a good move for Miami. I don't think he's a bad player. I've heard about some character concerns with him. I don't know how true those are. I know I've done stuff with Tennessee. I do cover games at Tennessee, but I didn't hear about any of it during the season. But after the season, and maybe that's just the draft world pushing stuff. Then I started to hear of some of those things, being hard to coach. But also just with on-field stuff, I feel like he's a very weird player because the way he's built, you would think he would be like an explosive bendy rusher, but that's not really his game. He doesn't really have any sort of bend in his lower half. He kind of just wins with speed to power. He combines that explosiveness with his power, but he's undersized, and I don't know, maybe it will translate as well. And also, I don't think the Dolphins need that type of rusher. I think that's kind of what they got last year with Chop, a guy who's not the biggest player in the world. I mean, doesn't have he has short arms. Size-wise, he's kind of fine. Maybe shorter, but he's got the thick build. So he's different, build-wise, but he does win with that speed to power. They would play the same edge spot. So kind of would feel a little bit redundant. Doesn't Tune have fumble issues? Yes, Tune has... Bro, if Tune didn't have fumble issues, he would be considered in the top of this class, I think, with the other guys. But those fumble issues bring him down a lot, in my eyes. But I do think a team should take a chance on him at some point, obviously. But his film is so good outside of the fumbles. So good. But the fumbles is a huge issue. I mean, definitely can't ignore the fumbles. They took Paul because they knew Armstead was on his last legs. Positions of need, both picks. Yeah, but they weren't the biggest positions of needs. They were positions of needs, but as I'm talking about, right now, this is probably, if Tyreek Hill's not here, if he's here this year, he's probably not going to be here next year. So wouldn't that make wide receiver a position of need with that logic? There's a lot of different things. Willie Gay Jr. is a starter? I don't think so. I think Dotson will start over Gay. I think Gay will be the third linebacker, the one that plays... if you go back and watch the Ravens defense, basically the Malik Harrison role, where he plays as a strong side linebacker, even plays off the edge a little bit, that will be Gay's role. And then there will be games where I'm sure he'll start because of injuries and stuff. But I think it's if you're relying on him to start, I think the Dolphins will be in trouble because he has really poor instincts. Especially, just all around poor instincts. He's very athletic though and can make some nice plays. But only when things are kept relatively simple in front of him. I think Paul will step in. I think Paul will do a good job. I don't think he'll be great, but I think the scheme will help him out a lot, and I think he'll do fine. He won't be the problem, at least. He won't be the main issue. Guards will be the issue. If it was third one, you had to pick one guy from this draft that you knew would get it, could get you the first, who would it be? Statistically, it's Damian Martinez. He was the best at that. But yeah, it would be between Martinez and Scatabo. I think they were pretty clearly the best in those situations because, they have the power. I think Scatabo, I wouldn't be surprised if Scatabo is better at the next level just because I think Martinez has a pad level issue at times and Scatabo is just naturally lower to the ground. But those would be the two. Miles Frazier in the fourth. I think in the fourth is fine for Frazier. I'm not the biggest Frazier fan, but in the fourth, it's fine. Yeah, I agree, Scotty. I just don't think. I think they signed those linebackers thinking the class is just super weak. If this class was really strong, I think linebacker would have a higher chance of being a pick in a situation where they're just best player available. But since the class is weak, I don't see that being the case most likely. So that's why they signed a bunch of guys like Dotson, Britton, Gay, who are all, I think, decent rotational players and can all be a third linebacker for your team, and they all bring very different skill sets. It's just none of them are like ideal starters at the number 2 spot. But I mean, you can rotate them around. Dotson's pretty good in coverage. Britt is a good run defender, and then Gay is more like the athlete that you kind of match up, and you have him play downhill, use him as a blitzer, match up on a running back, keep things simple. Maybe have him play off the edge. I think he does a good job in those situations. After the draft, are you going to make normal Dolphins content, or is it just always player evaluation? I'm just gonna do what I've always done. So it will be. I mean, after the draft, it will be all Dolphins related, but it will be player evaluation Dolphins related. So it will be like I'm gonna do all film breakdowns on all the Dolphins drafted people, and then I'm gonna do like streams talking about it. Just what I usually have done in the past. But it will be all Dolphins related. The only thing I don't do that's Dolphins related is all the draft videos leading up to the draft. But those are also can be taken as Dolphins related. Would Jody Barron or Will Johnson be? I think they're both good fits. I think Jody Barron might be the best fit. Like I think they both fit the scheme quite well, but I think Barron might be like the best glove fit into the scheme. I think Johnson might just be rated a little bit higher. I want Condra or Gray in late day 2, early day 3. They're more day 3 picks. But I think Gray is the better scheme fit for Miami. Luke Condra is like a in the box type player. Like you put him in the phone booth. That's where he thrives. He doesn't really have the range, I think, to play in Miami's scheme that well. But Gray is a late round sleeper in this class. If you're talking about Joshua Gray from Oregon State, good scheme fit, has played guard and tackle at Oregon State, but definitely will be a guard at the next level. He would be an intriguing one. But I think Willie Lampkin's going to go pretty late. Like videos about opinions on McDaniel or Tyreek trade. I don't really make videos like that. I think a lot of other people make videos like that. I do stream and we'll talk about that stuff. But I don't think I'm going to make like specific videos about just like, rumors and news and stuff. But I'll definitely talk about them in streams and stuff. I'm more of the film breakdown guy. And I really talk about like rumors that are like at least have a decent chance of happening, not the completely fake stuff. I'm expecting career to select wide receiver and edge in the first rounds. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't rule it out if he takes one of them. Shamar Turner. I wouldn't be surprised if Shamar Turner is the Dolphins' second round pick. Seems like they like him. They've had him visit. He has really like, he kind of fits into that vein where like he's a very high upside player that has still a decent floor, but like he has the physical and athletic tools that I think the Dolphins front office likes to take early, tested well, and he's a fit in Weaver's scheme. Like he can do all of that stuff. And he can, I think he has some alignment versatility, which they like. It would not surprise me if he's the pick. I do think that wouldn't be my favorite like pick at 48, but I would understand it. Like super explosive, versatile, good mover, needs more consistency, but has really nice traits that can be put all together. The scheme at Texas A&M definitely limited him too. Like if you think like all the Texas A&M D linemen, even Shamar Stewart and Nick Gordon, they were all kind of limited by that scheme at time. Because they had them like stick to their rush lanes. It didn't allow them to like fly forward a lot. But when they allowed Turner to be like explosive and shoot a gap, like he was really good. I believe he also had, I do think there was because his disruptor quality is really good. But I believe he had a rod put into his leg this offseason, if I remember correctly. Favorite day 2 to 3 safety target for the Finns? I would say day 2, either Watts or Makuba on day 2. And then day 3, like I would say Jonas Sanker, Hunter Wohler. I like Craig Woodson late, obviously. I've taken him a lot. JJ Roberts from Marshall. He's a name to watch. I need more film on him, but Roberts had some interesting stuff that I've seen from Marshall. Lathan Ransom, if you want to run defending guy on day 3. There's some decent day 3 options that with the Dolphins safety room, I wouldn't be surprised if a day 3 safety ends up seeing like significant playing time. Yeah, Malachi Moore is not a bad one. Yeah, Kyle Williams is visiting today. Honestly, I don't know. With all the news, it seems like, I talked about yesterday with Ricky. Ricky tweeted out the stuff about an all-pro being traded away, but it seems like everyone else is all over the place. I've seen some people speculate it's Tyreek, some people speculate it's Ramsey. I've seen some people speculate it's neither of them, which means it would be, like Ingold or a special teams player, which I don't see that happening, but I really have no idea. Personally, I just find it like, yeah, I do agree with the culture stuff with Tyreek. I don't like rooting for him either, like as a person on this team. Obviously, he's very talented, but I wouldn't be surprised, like, if you got rid of him and found like more of a balanced approach, that your offense still found some pretty good success. Is he reliable? He's not 100%, but like he clearly is touched in and has like sources. He just, I think his thing, I talked about it. He is a guy that reports things very early because he's not a journalist. Journalists have to wait until things are 100% confirmed usually to like report stuff. He's just a guy that, like, I'm sure he has, like, he maybe knows agents or stuff. He's heard something, and then he tweets it out super early, so he's the first one to, have the scoop. And then sometimes those things change, and it doesn't happen, and then he looks wrong. But then there's been plenty of times where, like, that stuff did happen, and he was weeks in advance. So I don't think it can be ignored, but it's definitely not, like, an 100% thing that's going to happen. Yeah, I'll be live for the draft. I would think they're going to trade Chubb because of the restructure. I actually think that means they're less likely to trade Chubb because of that. Like, I feel like they wouldn't have, redone his contract if they were planning to trade him away. But who knows? Because the team that traded for him could have just been the team that redid his contract if they agreed to that. We wouldn't need to be the team that restructures it to trade it away. The Chiefs, I doubt it. Yeah. And they said all pro. And has Chubb ever been all pro? I don't think he has been. Like a writer's week. Johnny Barron was just one of the first guys I watched. Sometimes you get lucky. You find your guys early. Barron. Who did I watch first? I actually can't remember. I think I watched a lot of tight ends early. I watched Tyler Warren early. Jade Barron, obviously, I watched very early. I watched Gunnar Helm early. I watched a lot of the Texas guys early. Unfortunately, the Texas film gets copyrighted, so that stuff kind of sucks. I wish I could make videos on Barron and Makuba. If they end up drafting them, I'll find a way. I'll figure out a way to make a video on them, but I'll have to, do some editing magic there. What's the earliest you feel comfortable taking Zabel? I really like Zabel, but like I've seen him get pushed up too much. Like to me, I would take him in the second, like 48, or if they wanted to trade up a little bit, that would be fine too. But like I think the first round stuff is a little too rich for me. But I do love his scheme fit. I love his play style. I just see him as a second round guy. That is true. That's why I don't say stuff unless I'm like I try not to say something that's like gonna happen unless I like 100% believe it. Yeah. Banks would be a trade back guy for me, not a 13 guy. And as I've talked about, I don't think the trade thing is gonna happen because of how the value is seen in this class. But if they take Banks at 13, it is what it is. That would be one of the picks that I think is possible. That I would just be like, okay, I get it. He's a good scheme fit. He's a plug and play starter at guard. But I just think there's going to be multiple, like at least 5 players that I would prefer over him. You think Zabel is better than Barton from last year? Ooh, honestly, they're kind of close. I'd have to go back and look at my Barton notes. Do I have them up here? Because I think I might have preferred Barton. Graham Barton, elite positional versatility, strong anchor, great athlete, great finisher in the run game, excellent run blocker, just moves people, great leverage, nuance with his positioning, strain, sustains. When hands are good, they are crazy good. Body control, balance, base, bend, burst. Oversteps at time, which, with moving him inside helps. Outside hand placement is inconsistent. Those are the notes I had on Barton, which sounds like to me is better than my Zabel notes. Yeah. Hey, that's something that the quadruple B. This is something I learned from when I went to the Senior Bowl one year, and I was for the Scouting Academy. Eagle Scouts talked about this, the 4 Bs, because the Eagle Scouts were there. Balance, base, bend, and burst for offensive line. Quadruple B. Balance, base, bend, burst. You got to have all those things. Had your membership gone up this season? No, I haven't changed membership at all. It's still like, I think it's just $4.99. I've never changed anything about it. Just one tier. I got it. If you guys want to join as member, I got a lot of film breakdowns, early access. Some of them have been made for like weeks now. And I'm gonna make a lot. Like I still have like it, because I think I have like 7-ish that I haven't posted yet that are members only right now. But I still have like probably 7 more to make before the draft. So I don't know how I'm gonna post all of those before the draft actually happens. I guess I'll have to post 2 in a day or something. And there will be early access to who the Dolphins draft as well. But I'm gonna try to get those out as quick as possible. I know our staff apparently loves Ewers, but I don't get it. Yeah, it's just I think it's a scheme thing. Like the things he does do well is the stuff the Dolphins ask a lot of their quarterbacks. But I have a huge problem with his ability as under pressure. I think he really like. If you watch Ewers' film, like the first few games of the season, Ewers actually looked pretty dang good his first few games. But after that, man, it is so bad. Like when he had pressure, like he collapsed. And now in Miami, when they're doing a lot of RPOs and play actions, they can create clean pockets those ways in the play action game. And RPOs, it's less about facing pressure because it's, you're trying to, sell the run there. So like there's a lot of times where like it won't matter for if you're a quarterback in Miami, but there's still going to be plays where it's a true pass set or guys get pressure, and that's where he ends up struggling. Freaky bend out of this class at edge. Let's see. I mean, I would say like out of the top guys, Abdul Carter, obviously. Mike Green has really good bend. I think he's one of the best pure rushers. Some other guys, maybe like a Braden Swinson, Baron Sorrell, have some good bend. A lot of these guys aren't super bendy types that I'm looking at. Like I don't think James Pierce, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, Josiah Stewart as well, JT Tumalau. Those aren't really bendy guys. I would say Donovan Ezeriku, the Boston College kid. He's got that twitchy, bendy pass rush style. Really long arms and like low to the ground player. It's very interesting tools. How far does my cream fall? Do you think due to the personal issues? Um, I mean, I don't think he's going to fall that far. Personally, since Edge isn't a huge need and he has like some serious off-field stuff that not just is like, it's not recent, like it's been around for a while, and it happened when he was at Virginia and Marshall, I believe, like two separate occasions of, I don't want to misquote it, so I'm not going to say it just because I can't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head, but I know it's very bad. He would not be a player I would take early, but I still think he's going to get drafted early. Jay, you got to move on. You just got to accept it's been 5 years. This is where we are. Herbert has also not won a playoff game, and you just talked about winning a playoff game. Okay. Let's see. Jalen Rivers from Miami. I'm actually not a huge fan of Rivers. But I mean, he clearly has some ups. Like, he's a big dude, lots of length, has played both guard and tackle, but he has a pretty big injury history. Looks pretty comfortable in pass pro. But I wish for a guy of his size, I saw a little more of a nastiness in the run game. And the injury stuff definitely concerns me. Scoreton's more of an... Last year with Texas A&M, they made him more of a power rusher. If you watch Texas A&M film, he bulked up. I think he gained 20 pounds or so last offseason to play in that Texas A&M scheme. And like, they didn't really allow them to rush up field with like, bend and try to win around the edge. They wanted to play contain. So I think it makes him seem like he can't rush the passer. I think he's more of an in-between. I don't think he's like a super bendy guy, but I think he has some pass rush stuff. But when you watch his Purdue film, where he was playing more at like 260, because last year he was playing like 280 something, 260, he looked definitely more explosive and stuff like that. Tanny. Hey, shout out Tannehill, Not the best player, but also not the worst. I feel like some people thought he was horrible. He was never horrible. He was just average. And when he went to Tennessee, you can win with an average quarterback. When he went to the Titans, they went to I believe they went to the AFC Championship, and that's called team building, having the right team around a player, and he was able to, work the play action pretty well. The Dolphins just weren't that good when he was there, and he was not going to elevate them. Gillette. Yeah, Ashton Gillette. Where do I have notes on him? I watched him a long time ago. I can't remember too much. Let me see if I can look this up. I remember him being pretty versatile. What's his size? I'm trying to find his size. He has... Because I remember him being pretty alignment and did some interesting stuff, but I can't remember. I remember him being kind of... Come on. Get out of here. Oh, that's not popping up. I'm trying to find this report here. Nope. Okay, well, that's not working. But I remember not disliking him, but I wasn't like the biggest fan when I watched him. I remember thinking, like he had some good power and versatility. This is at 6'3", 275, so according to 33rd team, his pro comparison is Olivier Vernon, which is interesting. I can see that. That's from Kyle Krabs too. Also a Dolphins fan, check him out. But yeah. I wish our fans knew the difference in our system of Y tight end and F tight end. Oh yeah, very different. Very, very different. If you want to know what a Y tight end is in the system, go watch George Kittle play for the Niners. And if you want to know what the F tight end looks like in the system, just watch Jonnu. And you'll see basically people playing very different spots. Hot take, I think Will Howard is a sleeper. My comp for him is Josh Allen. I saw Gruden trying to say he's Josh Allen because they're the same size, but Josh Allen was a different beast, like athletically and the way he moved and the play strength he has, and just physical talent in general. I think Howard might be fine, but I don't think he's going to be pretty like close to that Josh Allen level. Well, if they drafted a tight end at 13, it would be Tyler Warren, and Tyler Warren and Jonnu Smith don't play the same position. So one wouldn't. I mean, one might start over the other, but it's not about who starts or who doesn't start. They're going to play their snaps based on the position that they're playing. You know. I mean, the guy the Dolphins drafted in the first round last year also didn't play 100% of the snaps. He didn't even start majority of the year, and still made a huge difference in his play. Tyler Warren would play a vast majority of the snaps, even if he wasn't the starter. But I will say, I don't think they're going to take Tyler Warren. I don't think they got it. I don't think they got it in them to take a tight end early. Bids on the top prospects that Fins have met with. Well, apparently I saw Barry Jackson tweeted out earlier. I think it was Barry, that apparently a lot of the top 30 visits they're having are happening over the next 96 hours. Because there haven't been that many reported yet. You know, we've seen obviously more recently, like the Kyle Williams stuff. But I still feel like we've seen, you know, single digits amount of reported. So maybe if there's a lot more, I can, you know, talk about it on a stream. But I don't know if I'm gonna make just like a single video on it. Curtis Roke? I haven't even heard. Like, I don't believe this guy's jumping up in the first round. Because I haven't heard anything about him, unless you mean Curtis Rourke. Because and even him, I would be very surprised if Curtis Rourke went in the first round. You could be the next Barry Jackson. See, to be fair, I did go to school. Like I do have, you know, my bachelor's in broadcast journalism. So I guess I technically could do that, but like I wouldn't get to do all the stuff I wanted, to be honest. I never liked the journalism stuff that much. I always liked doing more of the film breakdown, doing my own thing. If you know, because I still get to do like the media stuff, but it's more of a like this. I would be very surprised if Curtis Rourke went in the first round. I'd be surprised if he went in round 2 or 3 as well. Let's see. Anyone I haven't talked about that I wanted to talk about? Another safety name. I don't think I've talked about RJ Mickens much, the Clemson safety. He would be an interesting late round safety that I haven't talked about really, because willing run defender, good in like as a robber, playing in like those hook zone situations. I think he has good eyes, likes to play downfield, pretty intelligent, versatile. Don't really see him as like a much of like a rangy back end guy, but there's some interesting play with him. For sure. What would you do if you got a phone call from the Dolphins? I'm picking up. I mean, whatever they, you know, let me work for the Dolphins. They paying me, I'm going. This is overall with Tyler Warren. I haven't really heard anything about. I think the Niners have a lot of needs, so it would surprise me if they went Warren. Especially because I don't think, unless like thought it was like Kittle's last year, maybe they could go Warren, but I don't think they think that. So it would surprise me if they did go Warren. Yeah, I did see your post, Grant. They DM'd me about it. Um, List at 13 is Membo, Campbell, Johnson, Grant Starks, but by no means do I consider tight end. If we went Warren, I'm still happy. Yeah. Yeah, my list would be. I don't want to spoil my list exactly, but it's not too dissimilar. I'm gonna create for draft day itself. I'm gonna create, an actual like stack. I'm gonna have a list, like the board. I'm gonna have them all graded out. I'll have like a board them graded out, and then I'll stack those players, the guys that I've listed out for like options at 13, and then I'll stack them in order of like guys I think they should take first, the guys I'll think they should take last. I'm not gonna put every player on there because some of them are just unrealistic, but I'm gonna do like at least get a nice little 10, and then I'll do the same thing on like day 2, like who's ever available, create a little nice little stack of players on day 2, same for day 3. Are you surprised there are not more content creators who can do what you do with your film breakdown? Um, Kind of actually. I feel like a lot of people, there's people that can do it, but a lot of the people that have like started where I started with on like the Twitter side of things, I feel like have gone and like stayed with the Twitter side of things. They've done more podcasts where it's not just like YouTube heavy. Not a lot of them have gone over to YouTube or stuck with it, because I think YouTube, the problem with it on YouTube is sometimes it takes a while to like get started and actually like gain anything from it. Uh, but when I actually like went into it full force, I got kind of lucky early on, so that helped out. How long does it take to find good clips for all 22 breakdowns? Sometimes it can go very quick, and sometimes you don't find any, depending on the player. That's why, if it's pretty clear I'm going to like a player, then yeah, I can find. I could make a whole. I could probably, if it's a player I like, I could make a whole video off of one game probably. But I usually like to have when you're watching a prospect, you do want to watch at least 3 games to get like a decent idea of who they are. Yeah. I'm not a huge Stutzman fan, John. He's probably one of the guys I would be like. I understand why people like him, but to me, one of the most like. Let me pull this up actually. Let's go to that thing where it's the triangles of success, right? Where is it? So yes, so inside backers, they have the top are football intelligence, explosion slash burst, tackling slash toughness. I don't think Stutzman is remarkable in any of those categories, and I think he's actually has really poor like eyes. I think eyes instincts are so important for the linebacker position, and I just feel like he doesn't see it well versus the run. And when he does get there versus the run, he's not great at like stacking or shedding either for a guy of his size. Like if you're a guy of that size and you don't see it well, you have to be so dominant physically and athletically, and I don't think he's any of those things either. But I don't know. Is your favorite creators Dolphins on YouTube? I actually don't watch that much anymore. I feel like I used to, when I used to like get a lot of Dolphins content. Do you guys remember? I don't know. It was like the SB Nation site, like a long time ago. I used to go on the SB Nation, the Finsider site, like in like 2013, 2014, and I would read stuff there. YouTube, I actually don't watch a lot of people's YouTubes. I watch sometimes. I'll tune into Kyle Crab stuff because I think he actually does a really good job. I've listened to like the 3 YPC like yards per carry guys podcast in the past. I've watched some of Reason's streams, but I don't know. I don't watch a ton of Dolphin stuff anymore. I do watch some other people that are non-Dolphins fan that do like draft stuff, but I've watched them for like years. Um, my birthday actually is close. It is around the draft. Surprisingly, I'm a Cinco de Mayo baby, so May 5th. For the Warren versus Loveland discussion, I think it just comes down to preference. I don't think the injury plays too much into Loveland versus Warren. I think it literally just depends on what type of tight end you want. They're just very different players. I've seen people say this, like they look at, I think it's been said by multiple different sources now. Can't remember off the top of my head, but they sort of look at tight ends like there's the Gronkowski type, and then there's like the Travis Kelce type, where Kelsey's more of that fluid, big slot receiver, and Gronkowski's more of that inline guy. And Loveland is definitely more of a Kelsey guy, and Warren is more of a Gronkowski type. I'm not saying they're going to be those players, but that's the types of tight ends they are. They either never heard of you, they follow and like you, or is that guy with the 9-year-old voice that does film breakdowns? Hey, I think it's pretty impressive that some people that like I got 10K subscribers now, and a lot of people have told me I sound like I'm 12. So I think that's pretty impressive. Those comments always make me laugh. Uh, Barry Cunningham, the top Dolphins YouTuber. Uh, let's see. But yeah, is there anything else to talk about? Any other players, positions? I think day 2 is so important. I actually think, well, round 1 is always very important. I think for the team and like long-term success, it's actually not the most important part of the draft this year, because I think they can hit on 13 relatively easily. I think it's hard to mess up. At least get a somewhat decent player. I feel like really round 2 will be important because they've struggled to hit round 2 in the past. And then as at like that 98 to 155 range, they have like, I think, what is it, 5 picks between 98 and 155? If they can nail a couple of those, that is like the part of the draft they absolutely have to kill for them to have like a better chance to see. If they kill that part of the draft, then I think it could actually help. I mean, not just the long term, but even the short term. When you're a 50, you'll sound 25. Hopefully. Yeah, I'm not into the clickbait side of things. I just like making film breakdowns. Do you like Omar Kelly? I don't dislike Omar. I don't really. I know like some people hate Omar. I don't really follow his stuff like that. I remember seeing a lot of his stuff on Twitter. I don't necessarily. I'll say this. I don't really agree with a lot of his actual takes about the team. But it is interesting to hear some inside stuff. But like, I will never forget when he said Devon Achan or Savon Ahmed looked better than Devon Achan at training camp. And he called Malik Washington just a guy last year. I'll never forget that, though. Those are my guys. Um, uh, fun stuff. Honestly, though, like Dolphins Twitter is actually wild. It's insane. Like I hate it, but at the same time, I kind of love it because it's hilarious. Like you'll see some of the worst takes you've ever seen, but it'll give you a good laugh. But then you'll find some gems on there. There is people on Dolphins Twitter that are actually pretty smart. But yeah, we're almost there. It's April 13th. It's the 24th. We're so close. We're a week and a half away. God, I need it bad. You are addicted to the Dolphins hate. No, if I was addicted to the Dolphins hate, I would. I probably would actually quit Twitter if I didn't want the Dolphins hate. But then I would watch some of the people that are like constantly hating. That would be too much. Just seeing it on Twitter, I think, is enough for me. You know, I don't need to like go search it out. Scrolling past it on Twitter, seeing it for a second is about all I can take. You watch any film on Tavion Nicholson? No, let me pull. Let me check it out. Let me check out who is Tavion. It's so hard. There's just so many names, you know. So I'm trying to think like how many of these players do I have like written out here on my big board? See if I can actually check. Tools. Why can't I check this? No. Interesting. So I can't check. I just have. Let's just say I have a lot of players written down here that I cannot count very quickly, and there's still so many to actually find. But yeah, Tavion Nicholson, Louisville DB. Okay, interesting. I've watched Quincy Riley. I don't remember. I don't think I watched Nicholson at the same time, so maybe I'll check him out when I get a chance. Is it draft? Oh yeah, draft season is better. I like draft season is my Christmas. I mean, Christmas is good too, but the draft is like my favorite time of the year. The key picks, yeah. I actually talked about a little bit of this yesterday, or no, it wasn't yesterday. 2 streams ago, Pedro. But yeah, that is a thing we can talk about. I can pull it up real quick. Actually, let me. Boom. This is what I did yesterday, or not yesterday, but the other day. Go there. Go there. Okay. So looking at this mock, the important picks, like, because these are the obvious ones, you know, Cam Ward. Next 2 will probably be Hunter and Carter, unless there's some trade. 4 seems like it's going to be O-line, so either Campbell or Membo. To me, 5 is where it's not necessarily the key point, but 5 is one where things can get interesting. I think this is where things get interesting, but not necessarily for Miami, because I think the Jags will probably, you know, like they could easily go like Mason Graham, who I'm expecting to be off the board anyways. Like I think they'll go someone that's not going to be, you know, for Miami anyway. So we'll go Mason Graham. The Raiders is where it gets interesting. If they take Genty, that's great because they're one of the tops for Genty. But as you see, their top team needs are corner and running back. They could also easily take Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron, who are very high on my board for the Dolphins. So that's a big one. So let's see. They're just giving Genty for there, but that's a big point in the draft. The Jets, I think, is not too big. They're probably going to go. They could easily go like Tyler Warren, who I don't think Miami will take. They could easily go like Will Campbell, who I don't think is going to fall to us anyways. So that's not a huge point. I think the Panthers will go like. I've seen apparently they love Jalen Walker. I could see them going like either Ted McMillan, Jalen Walker, or Shamar Stewart. So that doesn't really matter too much for Miami. Saints. We hope the Saints go quarterback. They go quarterback, that's great. They don't go quarterback, they could take, you know, a couple of these people the Dolphins like as well. Like they could take corner, they could go corner, like their top needs guard, receiver, corner, edge. That's where things get interesting. Say they take Will Johnson. Bears could also easily take Ashton Genty if he fell to them. Bears will be important. The Niners is hugely important. I have no idea what the Niners are going to do, and they have a lot of similar, very similar like needs as we do. And then the Cowboys is not a huge point, but so realistically, I think the Raiders, the Saints, and then like what happens here at 10 and 11, mainly the Niners will be kind of key in that point of the draft for Miami before 13. Woo. Draft day for the Dolphins. Yeah, it depends on the draft. To be fair, it's just, yeah. This is why I'm actually very excited for the draft, because it was like last year was the first draft in a while where they actually had, a first round pick. So that was exciting. This draft, we have first round pick and we actually have multiple picks. So like each day will be, at least somewhat exciting. Last year, it felt like, you had one pick on day one pick on day two. And then day three came around, you had a few picks. This year, you at least have multiple. You have two on day two and have a lot on day three. So this will actually feel like a draft, because before, you had 4 picks, no first rounders. Like 2020 and 2021 were really fun drafts because you had a lot of high picks. I always feel like, yeah. Oh, the Steelers last year had a draft that I liked. I remember that. But the Ravens for sure. The Ravens always end up taking the guy I would take because they just take whoever falls to them. They're the ideal version of BPA because they just sit in the draft. They don't have a ton of needs anyways, and they sit in the draft and be like, well, this guy fell to us who we didn't think would fall to us, and we take him. It wasn't the biggest need on the team, but they do that every year. Trey Harris would be interesting in the system. Brooks is fine. I'm not a huge Ja'Cory Brooks fan. I don't dislike him, but as a late run option, it's fine. Harris is kind of weird though in this class. I believe he has the highest yards per out run, like an elite yards per out run, which is actually usually a pretty good indicator for the analytics that you could be good. But that system at Ole Miss so weird with how they use their players. Which I think limited him at times. But he's got a good size, nice catch radius. I actually think he'll be a better pro than he is in college. I think he's still like a day 2 guy, somewhere in there, middle of day 2. Flashes the route running, has some nice short area quickness, good with the ball in his hands, physical. But yeah, not a bad option. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I don't think I could have rooted for Brady. It would have been tough. It would have been real tough. But yeah. So any final questions before we end this thing? Probably stream next weekend. Next weekend will be before the draft. So yeah. We'll just be more draft film breakdowns throughout the week. We'll probably stream next weekend and just have the final talks, and then it will be draft time. I'll have a bunch of draft stuff up before then. Mock draft tomorrow, mock draft Mondays. I'm gonna do, I think on Wednesday before the draft, I'm gonna do a final predictive mock where I don't go through a mock draft simulator. I just go through all the Dolphins picks, and I guess I'm gonna try to predict who they're going to take at each spot. See if I get anything right. Dolak. I like Sean Dolak. I have a video on him. It'll be coming out soon, I guess, actually. It's already made. Andrew Armstrong. The Arkansas receiver. Armstrong's interesting too as a late round. I prefer Tesla from Arkansas. Armstrong just I thought was a little more inconsistent. But if you want, is a late option, yeah, I'd be down. Not gonna be too mad about it. Yeah, thank you guys for watching.